Hello everyone, this is Nina and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make these super cute mini boxy pouches. I am a small business owner and this is my mini makeup pouch that I have made and sold hundreds of using this pattern I designed. It is one of my best sellers and so well loved by everyone. I've shared these bags before and so many of you asked for the pattern, so today I'm sharing a step-by-step tutorial on how to make them. If you'd like to support me and learn how to make this bag, I've linked this pattern down below and let's get started. First, print out the pattern and cut it out. I designed this pattern to help you make this bag easily, quickly, and with precision, especially if you're making multiple bags at once. This pattern is beginner friendly and makes the perfectly sized mini makeup bag that's both cute and functional. It fits into any bag while still holding all your daily essentials like lip balm, AirPods, and more. After cutting out the pattern, I used it to cut all my fabric pieces. You'll need 6 pieces in total, 2 main fabric pieces, 2 fleece pieces, and 2 lining pieces. In this tutorial, I'm making the mini pouch using 120-gram fusible fleece. I usually use fleece for these because it gives the pouch just the right amount of padding and structure without making the layers too thick. If you want to make your pouch even cuter, you can coat the outer fabric for a textured look. Here's an example of a coated mini pouch I made using polyester batting. For the coated versions, I recommend using batting for that soft, puffy finish. You can see the difference here. Polyester batting is puffier and softer, while fusible fleece is thinner and more structured. There's no strict rule for which one you should use. Feel free to experiment and choose what works best for your style and preference. Next, I cut out my fabric pieces by first tracing the pattern onto the back of the fabric, then cutting them out. I find this method helps me achieve more precise and matching fabric pieces. After that, I ironed the outer fabric pieces onto the fusible fleece and cut out the sides using the same pattern. At this stage, I marked the zipper side using a heat-erasable pen to remind myself which edge it was. Although the pattern may appear horizontally symmetrical, there is a slight difference between the zipper side and the bottom side. It's important not to mix them up, otherwise the corners of the bag won't align properly later on. After cutting the sides off, you'll have these small rectangular pieces. Instead of throwing them away, I'm going to use them to make pull tabs for the pouch. Now that I have all my fabric pieces ready, it's time to assemble them and start sewing. First, I placed one of the main fabric pieces on the table with the right side facing up. Then I positioned the zipper on top, with the teeth facing down against the right side of the fabric. Next, I placed the lining piece on top, right sides together with the main fabric, and clipped all the layers together. Make sure everything is aligned nicely, then sew along the edge next to the zipper teeth. I backstitched at both the beginning and end of the seam to secure it. Then I opened up the layers and top stitched along the seam. Top stitching not only gives the finished product a more professional look, but also helps keep all the layers in place. Now we're going to sew the other side of the zipper, following the same steps as before. I placed the second main fabric piece on top of the zipper with the right sides of the main fabric pieces facing each other. Then I flipped to the lining side and placed the second lining piece down, making sure the right sides of the lining pieces were also facing each other. I clipped all the layers together, ensuring everything was aligned. Next, I sewed closely along the zipper teeth, remembering to backstitch at the beginning and end to secure the seam. This is how it looks after sewing on the zipper. I also top stitched the other side of the bag. You can see how each side and layer is aligned neatly here. Clipping and top stitching really help keep everything in place. This will also make boxing the corners much easier later on. Next, I closed the bottom edge of the bag by aligning the right sides of the outer fabric pieces together and the right sides of the lining pieces together. I sewed along both edges using a 1/4-inch seam allowance. When sewing the lining, I left a small opening, about 5 centimeters or 2 inches, to flip the bag right side out later. It's important to remember to leave this gap. Otherwise, you won't be able to turn the bag inside out in the final step. Now that the bottom edges are sewn, I'm going to rearrange the layers to sew up the sides of the bag. I opened up the main fabric pieces and pressed the bottom seam flat against the zipper teeth. I made sure the bottom seam lined up with the zipper on both ends, then clipped it in place. I repeated the same process for the lining, opening up the lining pieces and pressing the bottom seam down against the inner side of the zipper teeth, again ensuring everything was aligned and clipped. This step is crucial. It determines whether the sides of the finished bag will line up neatly. Proper alignment here really helps to achieve a clean and professional finish in the end. Here are the side cutoffs from the main fabric that I saved earlier. Now I'll show you how I use them to make pull tabs for the bag. First, I folded each piece in half lengthwise and pressed it with my fingernails to create a crease. Then I opened it up and folded both sides inward toward the center crease. After that, I placed the 2 folded pieces together with the raw edges facing each other on the inside, and sewed along both sides to secure them. I folded the strap in half and sewed the ends together to keep them aligned when attaching it to the bag later. And here's my little pull tab. To attach it to the bag, I opened up the main fabric layers and placed the pull tab at the end of the zipper, with its raw edges facing outward. After making sure the pull tab was centered along the zipper, I closed the main fabrics back together and clipped all the layers in place. Then I unzipped the bag slightly to make sure the zipper pull would be inside the bag when I sewed the sides closed. Now I'm ready to sew the sides. I started with the side that has the pull tab to secure it in place, then sewed the other side of the bag. I remember to backstitch at the beginning and end of each seam to keep everything secure. I trimmed the ends of the zipper to reduce bulk, and now it's finally time to box the corners. To make things easier, I first reached through the opening I left in the lining and unzipped the bag completely. This gives you more room to move the layers around. Next, I pinched the corner of the main fabric to form a straight line and clipped it in place. Then I did the same with the lining fabric. After that, I aligned the 2 layers and clipped them together. I like to sew the lining and outer fabric together in this step. What's unique about my method is that it attaches the lining to the outer fabric, which helps prevent the lining from pulling out during use. My method also saves time and effort. This way, I only need to sew 4 corners instead of 8 if I were sewing the layers separately. Here are a few more demonstrations of sewing the corners from different angles. While it might take a bit of practice to align and sew both the lining and outer layers together, the end result is a neater, more professional looking pouch. However, this method is totally optional. You can go with whichever technique you're most comfortable with. I also backstitched at the beginning and end of each corner seam to keep everything secure. Now that I've finished sewing all the corners, it's time to turn the bag right side out through the opening we left in the lining. I like to trim any excess threads and check for any gaps before closing the lining. I also gently poked out the corners to make sure they're all even and about the same height. If anything looks off to you, you can flip it back and make adjustments. Once I'm happy with everything, I pinched the lining edges together with the raw edges tucked in, then sewed closely to the edge with back stitches to close it up neatly. You can also use an invisible stitch to make it look more seamless. And here it is, my finished mini boxy pouch. This bag is my go-to gift for friends and family because they all love it so much. It is compact yet surprisingly spacious. If you've been wanting a mini boxy pouch like this, now's the time to make your own. It is quick and easy to sew and makes the perfect gift for your loved ones. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support truly means so much to me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.